How's it going? My name's Zach with Mighty Mammal Fitness, and this is essentially going to be like an extended ramble of uh, through a bunch of different topics that are kind of interrelated, that are very complicated, but there are solutions to them. Okay, so I'm going to cover a bunch of different things in this video, um, and if you all find what I have to tell you helpful in any way, I would love to work with you. I'm a personal trainer and a diabetes coach. I'm a type 1 diabetic of 28 years. I am a competitive kettlebell sport athlete at the national level. My lifelong A1C is like 6.3, probably 6.4, something like that. Um, and I've got zero long-term complications. So I would be more than happy to work with you all and separately, individually, if you all would like to do that at some point in the future. But first things first, we got some stuff to unpack, okay? So in a bunch of the comments, I've noticed that the theme is my blood sugar's dropping or it's raising when I'm working out, and I've got to stop working out because that's happening, and I don't really know how to get a lid on that, how to control it. So first, we've got to understand why exactly that happens. So sometimes, if we don't, like, say, warm up the right way, or if we're not used to a particular level of intensity in the exercise that we're doing, and we just kind of jump right on into it, our heart rate shoots up really high, and as a result of that, we have these kind of like a flood of stress hormones that get released in our body, and our blood glucose levels have to react to that. There's no other way around it, right? Typically, under different circumstances, like lifting weights versus going for a run versus doing yoga, all those use different energy systems. So it depends on the energy system that is being emphasized in terms of how that impacts blood glucose level. So to give you an example, super common cure for anyone who's struggling with highs throughout the day is to do a little bit of cardio, just to get some kind of low level movement in, low intensity movement in for a decent period of time, and help chew away some of that excess glucose that's in the blood. I'll give you an example straight from my glucometer. This happened to me yesterday, was it? Yeah. So here, I'll go back and go through my history just to show you what happened. I wish I took a video for this, but I did not because I felt miserable while it was happening, and you will definitely see why. Okay, let's see here. There we go. Okay, so I got up kind of late. I got up at 10 o'clock, and well, no, I checked at 10 o'clock. I got up at like 9, so I just got up, messed around. It was 164, a little high for the morning for me. I like to wake up around between 80 and 130, right? So I know why that happened because I had a big meal the night before. And I kind of went about my day and had a bunch of stuff going on, and I forgot to do my long-acting insulin, which is a rookie move, and I beat myself up for it. I went upstairs, we're doing a bunch of work on the house, and I started painting, and my wife made the comment like, man, you were acting miserable. I'm like, yeah, I feel really bad. So I went and checked my blood sugar, and sure enough, 288, which made no sense because I had done more than enough insulin for what I had eaten. I had tried to correct for that 164, so I was like, okay, something's wrong. And that was at 11:45, right? So then I double checked like 1 minute after that just to make sure I didn't have anything icky on my fingers, right? And sure enough, it's 270 at 11:46. So it dawned on me, ooh, something's not right here. So I wasn't thinking that I had forgotten to do my Tresiba, and I went ahead and did more short-acting insulin to try to correct that. Meanwhile, an hour later, at 108, it's 291. Then I realized what the fundamental problem was. I forgot to do Tresiba. So I did the Tresiba. And the onset of the Tresiba is like, 1 to 3 hours or something like that. So it takes a long time to get in the system. And you can see at 2:02, an hour later, it was still 289, right? And then at 2:28, it was still 288. So I didn't want to do a whole bunch of short-acting insulin to get it to just beat it back down into submission and lower that blood glucose level. I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to overcorrect and plummet, right? So how did I handle this? I wouldn't recommend everyone do this. It's obviously everything that I'm telling you here. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a medical professional. I'm just a damn diabetic, okay, and a personal trainer and someone who's learned a few things after 28 years of having this disease and managing it as good as I can, right? So anyway, 288, how to handle this. When your blood sugar is over 250, it's not recommended that you do that much exercise at all because it's hard in your heart, right? The heart, you probably notice when your blood sugar is high, the heartbeat is a bit irregular and the heartbeat is hard, right? So without getting into any specifics, any long drawn out explanations of what actually is going on, it's having a high blood sugar and doing something that's demanding physically is just unnecessarily intense and taxing on the cardiovascular system long term, right? But I had an idea. I do, like I said earlier, kettlebell sport, and there's my little kettlebell family over there. There's, all sorts of weights, right? So I grabbed a light kettlebell, and I took 5 minutes out of my life to do kettlebell swings. I'll show you. And I did them in a way that's called sport style, not hard style. So there's big differences between the goals in doing hard style swings versus sport style swings, right? So this is a 16 kilogram, 35 pound kettlebell. For men, if you're starting with kettlebells, I recommend 12 to 16. Ladies, most people like to recommend 8 to 12, but I know a whole lot of super strong women that could start heavier than that, so just keep that in mind. Anyway, 16 kilogram kettlebell. Blood sugar is 288, I think. Yeah, here's my meter. I think I waited another hour, and I might have done another little bit of insulin, and it was still 268 at 309. So I've been in that range for a long time. I'm starting to feel really bad and getting desperate for something to do. So anyway, I did this for 5 minutes, and I want you to notice how I breathe. Again, this is sports style. This is not hard style. I guess I should show you the difference first, okay? Here's hard style, right? See if I can adjust here. And I know that a bunch of us that in these comments had issues with, we've had surgeries and we don't have the full range of motion available to us in our legs, lower extremities. I'll address that in a second. So just, I have not forgotten about that, trust me. It's just, this is a kind of an intricate topic. So anyway, kettlebell's right there at my feet. And real quick, without going into any super specific detailed explanation, here's hard style. Right? Really explosive. And you hear my breathing really shallow and rapid. Right? Now, here is sports style. Note the difference in breathing. Where I'm pulling the air to in my lungs in relationship with how I'm moving has a tremendous impact on variable results of energy systems. Okay? So, if I'm going, right? What's happening there is the air is getting pulled into the top part of my lungs. And in the top part of my lungs, that happens really rapidly, and I don't pull any air to the bottom part of my lungs to get a full, deep belly breath, diaphragmatic breathing, right? Or anatomical breathing is another way of thinking about it. Sorry, this COVID haircut is driving me nuts. If I don't do that and do kind of like a exaggerated hyperventilation kind of thing, the heart rate gets higher than it would have been otherwise. And you start sending these kind of panic signals because the receptors in the top part of your lungs are connected to the part of your brain that sends out the fight or flight hormone cocktail. When that happens, the blood, like I said earlier, the blood glucose level has to react. My personal response to that is that it goes high. And in the video that I linked earlier that I made with kettlebell sport training and working out, I showed how I managed that and ended the workout with a 96, okay? And I got up to like 170 in the middle of the workout. But when I take 5 minutes out of my life and I do those kettlebell swings at a lightweight, at a medium pace, and I was breathing really pulling the air, connecting my nose and my belly button, getting those full breaths in, I'm able to use the aerobic energy system, and that chews away at the glucose level, right, consistently throughout time. And if I can find my meter, I'm going to show you the results of this. Well, lo and behold, I'm sitting on it. So I'll go back to where I was, which was, here we go, 268 at 309, right, on the 29th of November. I did a 5-minute set of what I just showed you and stretched for a little bit. So it was 10 minutes total. In 10 minutes, with no insulin, I went down to 225, okay? So, man, this is great. I got to do this again. What did I do? Did it one more time and did a little bit more stretching, just hanging on a bar there, stretch my back out, did some pike stretch my quads, really deep, long breaths. That's crucial. I'm down to 202. Again, no insulin, right? And you might think, oh, this is the Tracebo finally kicking in. But it wouldn't have happened that rapidly, right? So then, just to drive the point home about the Tracebo, again, with no insulin, I took the dogs on a walk after that, and at 4:38, I was still at 203. So a bunch of time has elapsed since I've done the Tracebo and then. So at that point, I can't remember exactly what I did. I think I ate and did insulin for it, and then, so that was at 4:38, right? And then at 5:59, there I am at 90, okay? Then I had dinner at 6:45, or at 6 o'clock, I think. Then did insulin for that, and at 6:45, I'm 118. So at 8:54, I'm 92. At, let's see, 11:41, I'm 176. That's after dinner. And I got a little high because I had a snack and forgot to bolus for it at 2:28. But I corrected right before I went to sleep at 176. Then woke up the next morning, bam, 73 at 9:25, right? So that's a very long-winded response to why the bloods might go high. So you're sitting and you're working out and you're doing, trying to get a good workout in, and your blood sugar is going all over the place, and you don't know exactly what to do. Here's some stuff that, regardless of the range of motion, regardless of the blood sugar response to the exercise broadly, just about anyone can do. I'm going to introduce you all to the wonderful world of isometrics, right? So research has shown over and over and over again in terms of hypertrophy, building muscle, it's not the repetitions. You don't have to do so like reps and reps and reps of a certain weight to build muscle. The more crucial factor is time under tension. And isometrics is all about that. So basically, what you're doing is in layman's terms, you're taking a specific stance or a movement. You're kind of like, if I'm right here, say, and I'll go down, and I'm got this table here. This is a pretty heavy table, and there's really no threat of me lifting it up if I'm trying to apply force to it, right? So to give you an example of an isometric I can do sitting here to accomplish a relatively high level of intensity for your biceps. I'll go ahead and show you, right? So I'm going to stick my hands underneath this desk, and I'm going to hold and push and apply a certain amount of effort at different times to this desk, right? Again, like I said, it's pretty heavy, so there's no threat of me really picking it up. And how am I going to do this? I'm going to go ahead and show you and its effect on the heart rate, right? So I'm wearing a heart rate monitor, this Polar H10. I love it, couldn't recommend it enough, right? And I've got the app here, so I'm going to go ahead and show you real time. So I'm sitting here talking, and talking makes the heart rate rise a little bit, and I had a bunch of coffee, so my heart rate is sitting at 85, and I've done some moving around and stuff like that, so I'm not chilling. If I were totally chilling, it'd be like 58, 9, 60, something like that. Anyway, it's down to 76 now, but you can see there's fluctuations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this isometric, and I'm going to set this timer or this heart rate monitor down, and I'm going to go through different levels of intensity with this isometric. Okay, so for the first 30, it's going to be 90 seconds long. For the first 30 seconds, I'm going to apply 50% effort. For the next 30 seconds, I'm going to apply 75% effort. And for the last 30 seconds, I'm going to go as hard as I can. Okay, and watch what happens to my heart rate. And I'm not moving. I'm like my ass is planted in a chair. Right? So, no further ado, let's get going. Okay, first 30 seconds. Phase 2. Okay, so, right, I didn't move an inch, and my heart rate went from like 70 something to way up in the yellow there, right beneath the red zone of intensity. It's a hell of a workout, and I didn't move. All I did was breathe properly, brace myself properly, and applied appropriate levels of tension for the appropriate amount of time, right? So the exact same thing can be done given just about any body part, right? So you all, data speaks for itself there. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this and show you another one that is a lot more intense, right? So 90 seconds is a lot to get started on this, okay? And one thing we can do if we have limited range of motion is isometrics for the lower body. This is called a forearm forklift, by the way. It's used to lift furniture, right? It's not really exercise. It's not sold as an exercise implement, by the way. Oh yeah, of course. If you're worried about building muscle, that what I just did there gave serious pump in my arms right now. It felt really good. Anyway, we're going to do a bit of a lower body workout here, okay? This is for the thighs. So some of us have trouble with surgeries and various complications and stuff like that. We have trouble kneeling and stooping and squatting, right? So as long as we have kind of like a range of motion available to us to sit, as long as we can access this, right? And it's perfectly fine if we need something to stabilize to make that happen. As long as we have that range of motion available to us, we can get as good a workout as we need in for our lower body. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to set this up. Okay. So this is like 20 bucks. I couldn't recommend it enough. Kind of a convoluted thing here. So what you're gonna do is take these little loops and we're gonna put our feet through those. I'll show you how to do that here in a second. Okay. So we're gonna take this around the waist, loop it around like so, like this, right? And then take these loops through here and put them through our feet, okay? So, take it down. This is about the second loop, right? Sit that right there. Second loop, right here. Now, like I said, we don't need a particular range of motion available to us. So, if this looks, I'll show you the first variation standing, then the second one seated, okay? So what we can do from here is, just as long as we have the range of motion available to us to stand up out of a chair, what we're gonna do here is basically trap ourselves in the hardest part of a squat, okay? So again, I'm not gonna do a full 90 seconds for you, but I will show you the impact this has on intensity and heart rate, etc. So there we go. We can see that. Now, just so we can kind of see both here. All right, there we go. Now, about 50% force. I'm applying force through the quads. I'm bracing my core. My butt's tight. Watch your heart rate go up. Now I'm going to apply a lot of force. Right? And you can see, look, I'm at 146 right now, and I didn't move, right? So where there's a will, there's a way in doing all this kind of stuff. And the great thing about it is, if the blood sugar's going up and down in this kind of intensity, like it normally would, when you're doing a normal workout, you've got a chair right here. If it drops really, really sharply, you've got a chair right here. You're not going anywhere. You have access to your the glucose tablets, right, or whatever you use to treat your low. And odds are that if you keep that heart rate range underneath the yellow and the red zone, definitely try to keep it underneath the red zone for introducing higher levels of intensity, you won't have as many glucose fluctuations. And if you do have fluctuations, you'll be able to deal with them in a little bit more of an effective way, right? So here we are, seated in another variation. So we can sit back and put our legs out and then just push, pulling on my lower back here. And if it's uncomfortable, you can even bring it down a little bit lower. Make sure you're comfortable and adjusted. But all I'm doing, just pushing my legs outward, right? And you can see, here we go. All quads. Series workout without having to go anywhere, without having to compromise any level of range of motion beyond what you do in your normal activities of daily living, right? So there's a bunch of different ways to treat this problem. So that's one thing, or several things there: isometrics, blood sugar fluctuations, and regarding weight loss and diabetes, don't beat yourself up about it. be gradual, be as precise as you can. And I would advise shooting for a goal of about 1 pound a week. That's something that's not dangerous to sustain over long periods of time if you've got larger amounts of weight that you're needing to get rid of. If it's in the beginning, it might be quicker because the water weight goes so quickly. So in the beginning, if you're losing like a couple pounds a week for a couple weeks, that's understandable. Just know that at some point that's going to slow down, and it might even, if you're sticking to a plan and being really diligent about it and frustrated about the progress, just hammer away, be consistent. And my dad says, how to eat an elephant, one bite at a time, right? So in terms of macronutrient profile, that's a more important point than specifically what you eat. I mean, we all know that we shouldn't be doing very many refined carbohydrates. We need to be drinking plenty of water, plenty of vegetables and fruits, really, really good protein sources. Protein for me is, I've learned is crucial, absolutely crucial for keep staying in range and obviously building muscle and stuff like that. But you don't want to eat like an insane amount of it and totally restrict yourself to that, because it'll be harder on your kidneys, and our kidneys are already kind of working overtime as it is. So one way to structure, I'll tell you how I like to structure my meals for kind of like optimal glucose levels. In the morning, I go for like a higher protein, higher fat meal with almost, I think it's a good idea to aim for very, very little carbohydrates in the morning, because a lot of us have the dawn phenomenon thing happen. So that's a great way to start your day, just really protein heavy. I eat a lot of eggs, a whole lot of eggs and salsa for breakfast. And then for lunch, I do a 1-to-1 protein to carbohydrate thing, 30 carb, 30 protein, and then maybe a quarter of that in fats. And then depending upon what your tendencies are at nighttime, if your blood sugar drops or if it rises, whatever that might be. If your blood sugar is going to drop, I would imagine, I don't particularly have that issue that often, but having some, long-lasting carbohydrates in the evening is a really, really good idea. And regarding exactly what to eat, like I said, I'm not a dietitian, nutritionist, medical professional, any of that kind of stuff. But I will say that if it had a face once, or if it came from the ground, it's probably fair game. That's about as specific as I feel comfortable going in this context in this video. If you work with me, if you choose to work with me, we'll obviously get super specific and I'll give you as much access to as much information and kind of like prep and planning that I can, within that scope of practice. But yeah, breathing is super critical for controlling the blood sugars while you're training and managing what happens when they oscillate and you don't plan them to, or you don't foresee that happening, I should say. So yeah, I hope this answered some questions, and I know it's a ramble, but it's like I said, it's a really complicated topic, and I just want to help as much as I can, as many people as I can. So I hope you got something out of this, and if you did, please reach out to me. I'd love to work with you, and all the best. Much love.